everyone, and welcome to LymphaPress's monthly Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. We are so excited that you decided to spend an hour of your month with us. This is your happy place, your safe place, where you can talk about lymphedema, get your questions answered from patients just like you, and also we're honored to have experts in the field, and I will let Alexa do the introductions tonight. I will say that it has been my honor and privilege to begin this venture with you over a year ago now, and to watch so many people be encouraged by this time together every month. I am taking on some other responsibilities with LymphaPress, and Alexa Ercolano, who is a lymphedema patient and part of the LymphaPress marketing team, is so able, capable, and will be wonderful at leading the conversation from this point out. I just want to thank you for the privilege. It's been a wonderful ride, and I'm going to recede into the shadows as an attendee, just like the rest of you, and have a great webinar tonight. Take it away, Alexa.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you for starting this over a year ago now. This has become such a wonderful community that all of us on the panel and in attendance have grown to love and cherish each month. So as Brenda said, I'm going to be hosting this now, and I really appreciate everyone's patience as I kind of find my rhythm here as host. So introductions, we've got Kelly Bell, our veteran fighting lymphedema. He's an advocate both on Capitol Hill and off. We love him for it. We've got Amanda Sobey, lymphedema patient, certified personal trainer and nutritionist, saying hello from her gym. Angela Jones, who is a lipolymphedema patient and health coach. Catherine Rosenberg, cancer survivor, lymphedema patient advocate, and she recently had a surgery that she's going to be telling us about later, as well as her experience in recovery from that. And last but not least, Karen Ashforth, certified lymphedema therapist and fibrosis extraordinaire. So any medical questions, we will be deferring to her expertise and giant brain wisdom that we love her for. So as everybody's kind of logging on, we'd love to hear in the chat where you're from and your names. And a reminder too, to put any questions in the Q&A box, and we'll try and get to them throughout our conversations tonight. So welcome and happy August. I hope you all are staying cool. Let's start, Catherine, if we could. We're dying to know about your surgery, what you did, how it went, and how's it going now?
So I had a thoracic duct obstruction that was found in February, and in July they did a lymphovenous bypass of my thoracic duct to allow the fluid to actually flow through my thoracic duct and into my subclavian vein, and it has been a huge success. That's probably an understatement. Because immediately they had, it was flowing immediately, and they expected, if it was going to work, for that to happen. And I have seen a drastic reduction in the size of not only my leg, but also my face, my chest, my abdomen, as well as just some even blood work changes that are actually happening, that are changing on a rather quick basis. And it was honestly, I'm going to throw Kelly with this because I can't thank him enough for helping me with this. Because he and I were talking last year about it, and we realized, I might have something going on. So, and that's how I got to that point. So they're not, so I'm only 3 weeks as of yesterday from surgery date. So, and I've had, I want to say, Kelly, what was it? 27 things that have changed that I told you about? Something like that?
A lot.
It's a lot.
I can show you the text.
And I want to say it's 26 pounds of fluid that have come off. Yeah. And that was in 2.5 weeks.
Jeez.
So I didn't realize how bad it was until it's not that bad anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So thrilled for you, Catherine. That's incredible results. And do you expect it's going to continue to improve in that trajectory as you
Yes.
continue? That's awesome.
And the doctors feel that way as well. And I basically have absolutely no restrictions whatsoever now, and can do whatever I want, eat however I need to, and go from there. So they're very pleased. So we're just waiting on to see if one of my blood levels, which was my estrogen, comes back down, because that was a big concern for a long time, probably since October. So that one is one that we're waiting to see if it comes back down. But just know that this type of situation is not something that everybody has. And it's very, they're very picky about, is that a good way to put it, Kelly? They're very picky about how, getting the imaging and determining if it's actually something that you have.
Yeah, I think picky or
Selective.
you know,
Selective.
when you're starting something new, you have to have successes to continue to be allowed to do it, and to continue to get research funding for it to actually improve it. And so if you have failures, you know, any research, this is not just this, just so you know, every medical research is led this way. They actually have people they select and people they don't. Even the trials for the new drug they're testing for people with lymphedema, they're setting it up for success because they need to have small successes, which, to be honest with you, Catherine, that's not a small success. It was a pretty, for me, it was a scary surgery. I mean, but yeah. And so like, they probably, like me having a thoracic duct issue, would not be accepted into this program. That's for sure. So it's not for everybody, but it just shows you that they are getting into the central lymphatic stuff. So
It's a really important distinction to make, that it's not for everybody. I think that applies to a lot of, you know, things we try with lymphedema. I know we talk about this a lot in past roundtables. What works for someone may not work for you, and that includes with surgeries. And you always have to talk to your doctor and therapist to make sure that it is going to help you and it is, you know, it's appropriate. So, Catherine, do you mind telling us the name of the surgery? People are asking in the Q&A what the name of that was again, just for reference.
It was I'll actually type it out so that this way they know what it was.
Okay.
It was a thoracic duct obstruction where they did a LVA of my thoracic duct to give it flow. So basically what was happening is that my thoracic duct was basically had spidering or spaghetti, as Kelly and I like to call it, where the fluid wouldn't go through it. It would just get stuck. And now they created a new pathway for it to go around and actually get over into my thoracic duct. And so basically it's the same exact procedure that you can have done for a lower extremity, upper extremity of an LVA, but instead of it being on the peripheral end, is actually on the central end.
Great. And LVA is lymphovenous or
Anastomosis.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
I always get that one tongue-tied. We can put that in the chat too. Brenda's troubleshooting our chat stuff right now. So thanks everybody who is popping in the Q&A box, and we're getting some hellos from people in New Jersey. And Lisa Burtock asked, and this is something actually that I am wondering too, because I recently had some sciatica issues. Lisa asked, does the lymphedema cause the sciatic nerve to act up, causing intense pain? I would love to know this as well. Karen, do you perhaps know?
Well, I don't think it's a simple answer. So I think that sciatic pain can be caused by and aggravated a lot of things. And for people who have an asymmetry in their legs in particular, if you have one leg that's a different size than the other, that can cause the muscles in the back to have to contract differently to stabilize the pelvis when walking and sitting and standing. So I think that having lymphedema on one side, and I've even seen it happen with arms, although it's more likely to happen further upstream in the neck, but definitely in legs, it can affect the low back and the sciatic nerve. Now, another answer to that question is that you can have swelling in the low back area that is actually pressing on the sciatic nerve. So we're talking about two different types of grumpiness here, if you will. We've got the grumpiness that happens when the muscles are all clenched up, trying to, make everything perform right when you're getting around. And then we've got grumpiness that happens when the nerve itself is getting squished, whether it's from a tight muscle or from swelling itself. So those are a couple of thoughts that kind of pop to mind about sciatica and swelling.
That's fascinating. Thank you. I like the term of grumpiness. That's a much nicer way to label the pain, because that is painful stuff.
Well, and I think, our poor bodies, nerves get grumpy just like we do. And so sometimes they need some time out and some TLC.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that explanation. We've got a question from Irene Steffen. Hi, Irene. She says she has bilateral lipolymphedema in her legs and has fibrosis right next to her knee, and she would like to use something to help make it softer. She uses compression garments currently. So Karen, since you currently have the mic, if you want to roll with this one too.
Sure. Well, there's all kinds of things that you can use for fibrosis. And, you didn't specify, Irene, what kind of fibrosis, because there's many, many different types. I'm presuming that you're referring to the subcutaneous adipose tissue fibrosis that's common in lymphedema. But sometimes people can have fibrosis because of a traumatic injury or surgery or even a cellulitis infection. So kind of depending on the type of fibrosis, that can inform what we do, how aggressive we are, and so on. So wearing compression is good, and you can actually multitask by wearing anti-fibrotic compression garments. And my very favorite anti-fibrotic compression garment is a quilted garment, because you've got these little pieces of cut up foam that are constantly creating a micro massage to the tissues. And so the combination of the compression and the micro massage, I have seen, no kidding, I have seen hard tissues like rock turn into butter. And if you pair the lymphopress with the quilted compression, it is even more effective. So that's one solution. And then there are also compression garments that are made out of elastic. There are certain custom flat knit garments that have an anti-fibrotic weave to them. And then there are some non-medical grade garments. I don't know how severe your swelling is, Irene, but for people who just have mild swelling and limbs that are not real large, we can often get away with using the anti-cellulite garments, such as Solidia, Bioflect, Cisalis, and that sort of thing. So those are all sorts of things. And if you want, I can drop some of this information into the chat. Oops, it's not working tonight. Okay, so
in the email, the follow-up email.
Yeah.
To everybody.
And certainly if you want to, watch the transcript, because I love the fact that these roundtables are available so that you can watch it again. So if something kind of went by a little fast, then you can just watch the replay. So anyway, getting back to your question, I think that the anti-fibrotic garments are so useful because you're wearing garments anyway. And then there's a myriad of techniques. So I think probably more than we can discuss tonight, but I love teaching them and I love talking about them. But starting with the garments is a really good place. And if you have a lymphopress, even without the garments, it has anti-fibrotic effects. And then the two together, wow.
Anyone on the panel want to chime in with their experience as patients dealing with their own fibrosis, with obviously the caveat that we're all patients here. A lot of lymphedema is trial and error and finding what works for you. And here's what works for us. So anybody want to chime in with their advice or what they do for fibrosis? Catherine?
So I actually do pretty much what Karen was suggesting in terms of using the quilted nighttime garment with my lymphopress, and that truly does make a huge difference for somebody with fibrosis. And I mean, I'm a modified stage 4 in terms of lower extremity lymphedema, and it softens my leg like so soft by the time I'm done. So it's huge.
Yeah, I like to use my my night garment while I'm pumping too. It helps for that extra oomph on days where my leg is feeling super dense or heavy. So it's always a good tip. Amanda, you're nodding. Do you have?
I do use, yeah. And I think just going on, can I expand on the conversation of compression? I
Of
think a
course.
lot of people really get stuck on buying that one product that works for them. And I think the more that you accept that you have a lifelong condition, you collect your compression like you would collect your shoes. Don't always just be pigeonholed. Expand and try to enjoy the process of like listening to obviously people here that have amazing advice, but then also to getting involved in your compression wear, daytime, nighttime. Think outside the box and just don't always be super restrictive of what could possibly work best for you.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Well, we've got a lot more questions popping off in the chat or in the Q&A box. Again, thanks for your patience, everybody, with the chat being glitchy tonight. So someone asked, Patty Booth says she's been diagnosed with lymphedema recently and is using the pump. Is it possible that bruising on her legs could be from her compression pump? I'm gonna again kick this to our clinician on the panel, but I invite our patients too if they have any personal experience. But go ahead, Karen.
So I do know that with lymphedema that it's so easy to bruise. And yeah, that's an interesting one, because when I don't know how much pressure you're using on the pneumatic compression, and not sure if you're using it with, what else are you using it with? Do you have jeans on? Do you have a garment that could get bunched up? Because there's a lot of things that can cause irritation. And generally, I like to recommend that people set the pressure with guidance from their doctor, of course, but to a comfortable level so that it's not painful when it's compressing. And I also like to recommend a soft garment underneath, like pajama bottoms would be great, long johns, that type of thing. Some people can use compression garments under their pump. We don't recommend it, but as long as it's not bunching, then it shouldn't pose a problem. Now back to your bruising. I think a lot of it just depends on what's really going on and how much pressure is it, and is it really the pump that's causing it, or is there something else? Is it happening in the same place every time? Is it happening randomly? Are you moving around while you're in the pump? So my recommendation would be to turn the pressure down, turn it all the way down to the bottom and see how that goes, and then titrate it back up again, because you got to find something that's going to work for you, but will be tolerable.
Thanks, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have anything to chime in on that, or I think Karen's great at covering covering all the bases, and that's why we love her. That's one of the things that are so great about the LymphoPress is that you can adjust the pressure settings with your therapist guidance, of course, but that makes it really helpful. So Amanda, you had a post the other day on Instagram about progress, not perfection. And I think that is so emblematic of the lymphedema life. Would you like to kind of talk a little bit about that and what that sort of means to you when you posted that? And
Absolutely. I think life is hard. No, I don't think I know life is very hard. And the simplest tasks often feel the most daunting. And what I've learned by training people for quite some time now, I love the ambition of, I'm going to start my diet on Monday. I'm going to do my fitness on Monday, and everything I'm going to do is going to start on that Monday. And God bless everybody for that level of intensity and that level of dedication. But I almost feel that we miss just the small steps of getting consistent. bring it back to the things that are doable, and that progress of the consistent behavior over a long period of time. It's the same analogy as water dripping on a rock. Eventually that water will crack that rock. And the battle, even just the mindset to get up and to do something every single day, and frankly that you don't want to do. I think that's the biggest issue too with lymphedema. I think a lot of us don't want to do what we have to do. We don't want to wear compression. We don't want to eat a certain way. We don't want to move. But getting really good at your fundamentals, it's the progress, it's the journey, and making peace that you still have that ability to take care of yourself. You still have, hopefully the audience too is able to get up and go to the washroom and get up and bathe and get up and do those very fundamental basics is exactly where you should start, and take the pride, take the time, take that care of attention to detail. Because I do believe by taking care of yourself, it makes you feel good, and feeling good in theory, you should want more of that. And you start chasing this pattern of feeling good because of your progress. And I think that's where health should always start. And don't take no for an answer. Keep on getting second, third, fifth, 67th different opinions if you need to, but that progress is what gives you that perfection. Mic drop. I don't know. That's all I got.
Kelly's itching to say something. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh.
Oh, it's a toughie today. Get that button. There you go.
Oh, I was like, whoa. No, I mean, I had to support 100% because one thing you'll always hear, we're all different, we're all managing things and trying to figure this out. And we always come up with these ideas or try things. And when you, especially if you're a new patient and you hear all these ideas, you'll try everything and you kind of like throw everything at the dartboard and hope something sticks. The problem is you don't know what's stuck or what's working and what's working against each other. And so consistency in anything is, from an engineering standpoint, is how you move forward with anything, and give things time to work. Lymphatics don't fail quickly, usually. So they don't heal quickly either. And so give things time to try them. And then just move forward, just take your time. I know it's a scary disease. Trust me, when I started this journey 17 years ago, I was like every day, when it gets so bad that you're hoping you get diagnosed with cancer or something so they can treat it. I mean, that's how scared you can get. But understand, a lot of us have been battling this for years and we're still here. And so just take your time and listen to us, especially listen to your doctors and your therapist, and then try one thing at a time and give it time. Because again, if you do too much, you're never going to know what worked and what worked against it. So.
All very true. An additional mic drop. How about you, Angela? I know you have a lot of, I see Catherine raised you. Angela, then Catherine.
I'm easily distracted by bright and shiny objects. And I have a tendency to do just what Kelly said not to do. I have a tendency to try several things, and I have to be so careful, because if it even has the word lymphatic or lymphedema on it, I'll grab it. So I have to be very, very careful. And I sometimes have to seek a second opinion from somebody a little bit more objective about these things, because I do get carried away, and I admit that. And I think we're always looking for a make it better situation for lymphedema. So it's so easily to get distracted by things that are thrown at you, and they don't necessarily work. They just sound good and they're promoted well. So they kind of throw us off track.
Yeah. Catherine, what were you going to say?
So the other thing, besides it just being in regards to utilizing, giving yourself the time for compression, you also need to, if you're changing your food, you need to make sure you give your body enough time to figure out, is this working for me or is it not? Because, some of us maybe have developed swelling or inflammation from, let's say, like a dairy product compared to a certain vegetable compared to others. And each one of us is different. So when you're changing, even if you're changing your diet, you need to make sure you are really giving yourself that time frame to really see, is it is it affecting me? And the best way that I found to do that is to really kind of document on a daily basis of what my body is doing. Like, am I noticing that I'm more swollen? Am I noticing that I'm more bloated? Am I developing, sometimes when my swelling was increasing, I was actually getting headaches. So I would document for myself of what was happening with my body, so I can go back and look and see what did I add into my diet or change that wasn't there before.
Yeah, Linda L said in the Q&A, her newest doctor advised a 6-week wait on new things before trying something new, which is kind of good. You have to wait a little bit and give it a chance. And Catherine, you mentioned, keeping track of things. I find that bullet journaling, I'm a bullet journaler, and I use like habit tracking and stuff and make really, fancy little spreads, but it helps keep me accountable if I can have a place where I'm writing down, okay, I wore my compression garment, I did my pump, I wore my night garment, and kind of get an overview of, my compliance, because I'm not always the most compliant with things all the time, as probably everyone else kind of struggles with that too. Good. Chat is back and is blowing up. Hello, everybody. And we've got a ton of questions also in the Q&A box. So we are going to continue getting through these. And if we don't get to your question tonight, please know, especially if it's LymphaPress related, you can send us an email at marketing@lymphapress.com, and we'll do our best to answer your questions or connect you to a local compression therapy consultant if you're interested in getting a LymphaPress or just finding out more information. So we have, so many wonderful questions. Okay, Susie Porter is in Houston, Texas, and she has a toddler with lymphedema in her leg, along with an unnamed overgrowth syndrome. Does swimming help her as good as a LymphaPress? What's the maximum pressure I can do for her without hurting her on the LymphaPress?
So for swimming, I say swimming runs circles around LymphaPress, because you're getting the muscle contraction, you're getting exercise, you're getting out there. So I would say that if you can choose swimming over LymphaPress, that is an excellent choice. But not everyone, that's not a practical thing for everyone. And so LymphaPress has a place, and it's got a wonderful place. In terms of the maximum pressure for pediatrics, remind me, how old?
She said a toddler, so young.
Yeah. So I keep the pressure pretty low for kids. I pretty much go all the way down to the lowest pressure. Although keep in mind that for every foot of depth of water, you get 22.5 millimeters of mercury underwater. But I would still say that I would keep it pretty low and focus on the pool.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I find that swimming is very helpful. Plus, it's nice and cool for our limbs, that's for sure.
And let me just make one more comment. It's not swimming, it's deep water exercise.
Deep water
So for people with legs, you want to submerge your legs as much as you can. You want to be up to your chest, to your neck. You want your legs, you want to be treading water. You want to be doing those deep dives. And people with arms, it's even more important because the arms are more shallow. So really getting under that water is going to be so helpful, especially this time of year. I mean, swimming pools are a godsend to people in warm climates right now with lymphedema.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you for that clarification too. That's a good point, that it's deep water exercise. Okay. Oh gosh, so many questions. Let's see. Okay, we have a question from Kathleen Petrarca. She currently has a torn meniscus, very painful. Does anyone have any suggestions? I can barely walk and it seems to hurt my knee when I'm using my normal pump cycle. Bandaging also hurts the knee. I'm freaking out how this is going to make my lymphedema worse. I do have the Optimal Plus and I'm going to try to turn off some chambers. What about the wave cycle versus sequential? So
absolutely wave cycle. Absolutely. Yep. With the torn meniscus, yes.
Yeah, and it's good that you're turning off some of the chambers too. That's another great thing about the LymphaPress, is that you're able to do that. Anyone on the panel have experience with injuries and using their LymphaPress? Catherine and Kelly, you want to duel out who goes first?
Go ahead, Kelly. Oh, all right, I'll go first because I'm unmuted. So last year I actually had a almost fully ruptured gluteus medius muscle tear on my lymphatic side. So what we did is I actually turned off the the chambers for my abdomen and my hip area, so that this way I can still control the swelling in my lower leg, but maintaining the safety for my injury and post-surgical healing that needed to happen before I was able to actually start to go back to that. And because those chambers were at the top, it made it a little bit easier for me. So because I could easily ease back in, because the top chambers have to be less than the lower chambers. So if you're having to turn off the chambers or lower the pressure on the chambers in the middle of the leg, then the top of the leg has to also be at that pressure or lower. So that is like a kind of catch-22 if you're going to lower the pressure instead of turn them off. But it definitely does help in terms of still being able to maintain your the rest of your lymphedema if it's just a short-term injury.
Kelly, what were you going to say?
I actually have a torn meniscus. It's been probably as long as I've had my lymphedema. And like when the lymphedema does get bad, it did make it worse. It doesn't as much now because I can control it. And so I mean, and guess, well, I'm not going to have surgery to repair it. But if you just, what I recommend is, like Catherine was saying, is like focus. You can isolate just that leg part, that lower leg part, to move that at a lower pressure, and then just shift to the rest of the body. If you have, I don't know, like where yours is, mine goes all the way up. And so then I just shift to the rest of the body, but trying to keep some movement in that area to kind of keep the inflammation low. And then as you're healing, like make sure you're getting some physical therapy to help build that muscle up. Because you don't necessarily, I don't know how old you are, I'm 54, so I don't necessarily have to have that surgery. And I still do crazy, I'm still pretty active, so just.
Well, thank you, both of you, for that. We've got a couple questions about open wounds and scabbing with their lymphedema legs and being in compression, making that more painful. Does anybody have any experience with wounds or scabbing and how to comfortably accommodate that while still wearing your compression, or maybe a lower level of compression might be helpful? Can anybody speak to that? Catherine.
So I've actually had numerous wounds that were probably about 6 centimeters deep from the top of my skin layer down. And I found that I could not wear my actual flat knit compression garments. I actually had to do more of the actual compression bandaging because I had the ability to control the amount of pressure that was being utilized. But there is various types of bandages out there now. So you might not have to use necessarily the brown rough short stretch bandages, because there's Velcro wraps now. There's, all different things that you can utilize to help be able to control the pressure. Whereas a flat knit is skin tight right up against your leg, and it's a predetermined pressure basically. Karen, would you agree that that's how you would describe a flat knit garment, that it's like a predetermined pressure based on the measurements that are there and the compression garment?
Yeah, and I would just add that bandaging is a great solution, but also Velcro wraps are really nice because you can adjust those a little easier than with the bandages, and they go really nicely over wound dressings. So as Amanda said earlier, it's just good to have a wardrobe of compression out there, depending on your situation.
Keep it clean. Always keep it clean. Yeah, and compression is a good thing when you have wounds. And again, then I think that compression level is dictated on what you can manage. Compression is good. It keeps things closer together to help speed up the recovering process. But again, clean gauze, clean dressing, take care of yourself, always inspect. And like Catherine said, instead of donning on a compression garment, the Velcro wraps or bandaging might be better to keep things in place and still give you the support without putting too much pain on that wound.
So here's another trick, is something that will pad the wound and also absorb any kind of drainage, is like a Kotex pad or a diaper. Think outside the box. Some of these are more comfortable for people depending on the wound.
Good advice. Thank you. All right. Moving along. Let's see. Lots of great questions here. We have someone in the chat who wants to know, MJ, asking, why is it that when the temperature and humidity are up even a few degrees, there is a sudden onset of swelling in my feet and legs? It's so strange that nothing else changes, but a difference of a few degrees sets everything off. MJ, I'm with you. We are all with you there. From my understanding, I think, does it have to do with vasodilation, Karen? Is that somewhat related? I know you could probably speak to that. And then I know everyone on the panel has their hot weather tips that they can share too after Karen's scientific explanation.
Well, and I think it's a very individual thing. I think that some people have a lot more effects from the heat than others. And I think that there can be a lot of other things going on because, you know, some people are very sensitive to salt, some people not so much. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that's happening. And that is a very common thing. You can have a very narrow threshold and just blow up.
Mm-hmm. Any panelists want to chime in on how they deal with the humidity and the heat and the misery? Catherine.
So just an idea, in New Jersey today, like the real feel was 102 degrees. So, and I was outside at marching band camp all day. So when I came home, before I left this morning, I actually took my quilted nighttime garment and I put it in the freezer because it cools it off. So that this way, as I needed my leg to cool down, I was able to use compression and get it cool. So that's one way that I found to be super, super helpful. And that was actually recommended to me by the company themselves. They suggested that when I'm like, I can't wear this. This thing is so hot. And they said to me, no, you can put it in the refrigerator, you can put it in the freezer. So I have a special shelf in my freezer just for my quilted garments that I could put in the freezer to, you know, kind of cool them off because the humidity level in New Jersey today was bad. Alexa, I'm sure by you it was too.
Yes, yes. So next to your frozen peas, you have your flat knits and your...
And it's purple. So, you know, you gotta have fun in the freezer.
Perfect. What do other people do to stay cool? Angela, you live in Arizona, right? You got that dry heat.
I'm in Arizona for right now. I'll be in North Carolina in the next month or so. But luckily here, as hot as it gets in Arizona, the humidity is usually pretty low. And there is a very different response in my body when I'm in North Carolina with the high humidity versus and the high heat versus here with the high heat and low humidity. But what I found is that I need to remember to stay hydrated. And it doesn't really bother me a lot because I'm not really an outdoor person, to just be honest about it. I like to go to the park in the mornings to walk, and I tend to go around 6:30 in the morning, but I don't stay out in the heat any longer than I have to because it actually does make my thighs especially swell. But I would say stay hydrated, and like Karen said, watch the salt intake and, you know, just kind of stay moving as much as you can in the cool.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm an AC girl too when it's this hot. Air conditioning all the way. Circling back to the swimming, we got an interesting question from Jenna Manto, who was also my roommate at Camp Watch Me, by the way. Hi, Jenna. She wants to know if there's a reason people usually recommend a pool as opposed to the ocean. Is ocean swimming just as helpful?
Yes.
There you go, Jenna.
I actually live near the ocean and I'm in it often. And I can honestly tell you, I die freeze just as much, if not more, in the ocean, because especially if it's really choppy, because I'm getting my exercise and my other than that, I mean, and we have a pool in the community, so both seem to be just as effective.
Catherine, what do you say?
The only suggestion that I potentially might have for somebody, especially if they have lower extremity lymphedema, if they're going to the ocean or the beach, is to utilize like a water shoe so that this way you don't cut your foot on a shell, or even if there's like a jellyfish or a horseshoe crab, you know, being cautious to make sure that you're not stepping on something that could potentially cause something to happen to that lymphatic leg.
That is great advice. And I actually also recommend that to my patients in the pools, because sometimes pools will even have rough bottoms or sides. And then you want to wear flip-flops in the locker room to avoid getting fungus.
Yeah.
Very
Just-
true.
Just a little information, if you're at the beach and you see the purple flag, everybody knows what the red flags and the rip current flags are. The purple flags means you have a lot of jellyfish. And right now, they're all along the eastern seaboard. Jellyfish are out, so be cautious.
The more you know. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Who knew that was lymphedema advice?
I know, purple flags, purple compression garments. So a few people here on the panel have had surgeries. We got a question from Gary Martz, who says, I was seeking LVA microsurgery on my lower leg, but my insurer Anthem rejected coverage because they see the surgery as experimental and investigative. I also understand that Cigna and Aetna have the same views. Do you have any suggestions for points to make in an appeal? We've got some experts in that, I feel like, on this panel, or people who've gone through that. Kelly, have you, or Catherine, surgery?
I think it's just me.
Yeah, I think it's just her. But
My bad.
So, and Kelly's gonna know my answer to this. I have like top-notch health insurance, so I have never been denied for any of the 3 lymphedema surgeries I've had, but I do know several people that have been, and they basically had to prove of all of the things that they tried of the conservative methods, such as your CDT, your compression garments, your use of a compression pump, all of the different modalities, and showing how long you've utilized those for, and that they were unsuccessful, and that you have the imaging to show that that you are a candidate for that surgery. If you don't have the imaging to back up the necessity for that surgery, then the insurance companies, I believe, do tend to deny them. My guess is that the biggest surgery that you have the highest chance of getting denied is going to be the liposuction. But I know that they are getting better with that. But because, you're not actually transferring anything, or you're not reconnecting something to immediately work, you're just getting rid of the fat, the solid fat from the limb. So the biggest thing is like when Alexa and I were saying about documentation, you want to document everything and have it documented and give it to your doctor when he's writing his letter to go to the insurance company. This is all of the things that I've done, and this is the time frame I've used, and also include any body changes that you've had, like if it's worsening, if it's like if your body is increasing in size, and different negative aspects, so that they understand by not doing this, this is what can happen.
Great advice. Yeah, document there's no such thing as too much documentation, I feel, in general.
Karen, do you have experience with this? Because this is a big problem. It really is, where people like are trying to get the surgery, trying to get the imaging, and trying even to get the imaging covered. I know it's a problem, because people ask me all the time, how do I get things done? And I'm like, it's a struggle. Everything's a battle when it comes to insurance.
It really is, Kelly. And I'm hoping that as we continue to do more surgeries and have more research and more evidence, that it's going to be more accepted. And I see a lot of patients that have all 3 types of the major lymphedema surgeries, the medical liposuction, the lymphovenous anastomosis, and even lymph node transplants. And many of them pay out of pocket. Some of them have it covered by insurance. And it really depends on a bunch of things. One is the insurance itself, and whether the insurance is even going to be open to that. That's the biggest factor. But I think another big factor is the doctor's office and how good they are at documentation. Some surgeons are going to put a lot more in to trying to get things approved with insurance, and they know intimately which insurances work, which don't. And so open enrollment is coming up Typically for most insurances, open enrollment starts in October. And I have patients that have horrible insurance and they're not getting anything covered. And I'll recommend to them, spend a little more money or shop around a little bit, see what your options are, because it can make a huge difference in your care if you get a different insurance that has better coverage.
Yeah. Can I throw in something at this point?
Yeah.
Everybody, like, I do a lot of advocacy, and this is why I advocate, because we're fighting. And if you're having issues, you should be fighting too. Okay. And that's all I'm going to like. Nothing changes without, if we don't get our voice. Lymphatic research doesn't happen. Funding for that doesn't happen. The surgeries don't happen. The cures don't happen unless we're advocating. So join me, learn, join, like whatever app, like make sure, just join, because it does make a difference.
Mhm.
Sign up and take part.
Yep.
Yeah, all of our voices together make it, it's louder than just the one too. So having these roundtables and expanding the community, it really helps raise awareness. Even just having someone learn the word lymphedema who maybe didn't know it before, that counts for something. So
And can I actually piggyback on that? Because I think for me, wearing your compression and instead of hiding yourselves away and hiding yourselves thinking that you're estranged, you can use this as a learning tool in a moment. Maybe who's ever walking around, it can help their sister, their daughter, their grandmother, their father, wherever's, and just wear your compression and just, we're cool like the athletes, you guys. It's just, we made it original before they thought it was cool. But I just think helping make that awareness, because everyone wants to change. I'm in Canada, I'm not covered.
Yeah.
It's global, it's international. So, and I think people look at us as like, we're obviously experts and we're in the industry, which is fine. We've had this for, I'm over 20 years for my journey. But everyone wants that change, and government is slow as molasses. But the more that we band together and the more that we network and the more that we share our message and our voices and our compression, is the sooner that we can get the testing, get the insurance covered, get the therapists, get the MLDs, and just get everything that we need and want for this condition.
Yeah, Catherine and I were just talking the other day about compression garment colors. Catherine is a rainbow compression gal, and I'm more of the neutrals, myself. But yeah, it's really neat to see. I don't know if people are on Instagram too. There's a lot of really cool influencers on there who are wearing bright colors and pairing it with their outfits. And it's neat, even if you're not personally ready to be that loud about it, to see that there are people out there who are, making a statement with it. It's really cool. And it is empowering for the rest of us. There's that ripple effect. So.
And I'm a neutral color girl too myself. Like, I like the classics. It's just my style. But again, back in the day, all we had was medical beige. That was it. It's like, do you want?
I don't wear those.
Or medical beige. But again, it's changing, And so, anyways, that I'm gonna drop it. But yeah, the more that we support one another, and the more whatever we can do, it causes the ripple effect.
Yeah, I don't wear those beige colors. My students actually got mad at me. I actually decided to wear beige in April because I had parents coming in for a parent meeting, and I didn't want them to see these crazy colors that I wear. And my students and my building principal actually said to me, can you please not do that again? Because that is not you, and we need your bubbly personality and your cool colors back and your cool designs. So for me, it's been a huge, having that support from my employer that's not an easy thing to get. And, working with special needs high school students, for them to specifically ask me to wear colors is kind of cool.
That's so awesome. We are winding down to our last 10 minutes, everybody, and there's still a lot of questions. If we are not getting to your questions tonight, please, we will try and get to them next time. And I encourage you also to look on our YouTube channel, the Lymphedema channel. We have a playlist of all the past roundtables, and a lot of these topics or something similar are covered in those past episodes too, if you want to check those out. Or our LymphaPress podcast, we have all of the roundtables posted on there too in audio version. So we wish we could get to everybody, but we only have an hour, unfortunately, every night. real quick, someone asked, what gentle body wash do you use, especially on your areas of lymphedema? This is a nice, gentle question. Kelly.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Cetaphil, Cetaphil.
Oh, Cetaphil?
Cetaphil.
Yep, that's what I use.
There you go.
That's
Kelly
mine.
approved.
You want to know? No frills.
Yeah, that's a good one. Lotion, Tina Kunkel wants to know. I mean, anything that's unscented generally is best, right? And I know that.
Can I do a product drop?
Oh, Amanda's gonna do not sponsored, but product drop.
Not sponsored, but Canadian made. I know everyone down is in the States. So I'm up in Canada, for those that don't know. I'm really proud. A therapist has created an all-natural, non-perfume scented vasodilator lymphedema lotion.
Oh, whoa.
So actually, and actually on my Instagram, where it just so happens, I didn't plan this at all, but I'm offering $5 off if you want to place an order, and I'll ship it to you.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Sorry, but it's great. I like it. It's unscented. It makes my skin soft, and it actually keeps things nice and supple. So I highly recommend my Lymphology skin cream. There you go.
Awesome. I use coconut oil myself too, because that helps with doesn't it help with bacteria also, or I think something like that, like Karen, help me out.
Yeah, it does have an antibacterial effect. And I want to just mention that some people need more than lotion. Some people need something that's more like an ointment, because lotion is water-based. And so coconut oil would be kind of an intermediate one. But things like Aquaphor, which have a petroleum base, can stay in and moisturize a little bit more deeply. Even shea butter, which is a non-petroleum product. But I just want to put a pitch in for those, because people who have very, very dry skin or who have dermal fibrosis are going to need something a little more aggressive than just lotion.
Catherine, what do you say?
So as somebody who actually has a petroleum allergy, it is very, very difficult to find the easy lotion moisturizer. But I actually had a doctor several years ago tell me one of the best tips that he could have ever given me, and it's something that I have in my refrigerator. I actually use Crisco to help to moisturize, because it does not have petroleum base in it, but it actually will moisturize my leg. And if I use it, I don't have to use it every single day. It will actually maintain that moisture for me probably for like 2 or 3 days. And there's nothing really in it that's going to cause any problems. Because I don't think he would have recommended that to me if there was, because I'm so sensitive to everything. But that was one of the, and that was because he did one of his residencies in a very low income area where the people really couldn't afford to go out and buy the $20 bottle of lotion. So this is something that's very cheap and keep in your refrigerator, and you slice off a piece and put it on your leg, and it melts as you're rubbing it right on your leg. It just melts right down.
It's good to know. The more you know. We're learning a lot tonight. Jellyfish flags, Crisco lotion, all the good stuff. Well, we are winding down some more now. So we like to kind of close out usually with a question for the panelists, something empowering and uplifting. So let's close out with this is going to be maybe a lame question, but what is one of the best things you've learned about living with lymphedema that you wish you had learned when you were first diagnosed? We'll go round robin. Kelly, you're at the top, putting you on the spot.
Wow. What did I learn? I can honestly tell you one thing I learned that I did not have. I had zero before this was patience. Patience with everything, understanding that the doctors really aren't trying to hurt you. They really are trying to help you. They just don't know. And so I guess that's, if anything, understand they really do want to help you. They just don't know, and they need our help. I think that's, if anything, they're asking for our help, so we'll help them.
Thank you. That's good. Amanda, hot seat. Go ahead.
Can I do two? I couldn't decide.
Sure.
Really quickly, to respect myself. And if I want something, I got to do it myself. And that sounds really bad because it's crazy. Lymphedema does rely on a team of people, but ultimately the end person to get up to decide to do something is me. So not to make it such an isolated condition as much, but take the responsibility of doing my part and getting myself better.
I like both of your points there.
Thank you.
Angela, how about you?
I would say, don't beat yourself up if what works for one person doesn't work for you. It's a very customizable kind of condition, in my opinion. It lends itself to customizing care for it. So be careful about listening to people, stay away from bright and shiny objects, and remember, if it works for you, you can pass the information along, but at the same time, just say, this is what works for me.
That's awesome. Catherine.
One of the things that it took a little while for me to learn this, but it is okay to have a pity party for yourself, a short one, and then move on, because sometimes we just need that little bit of time for ourselves to really realize, to buckle down, to continue on with our journey, because this lymphedema journey is not an easy one. It is a lifelong challenging one. So sometimes we need to give ourselves a little bit more credit than we want to. So we got to make sure you always do that. It's super important to give yourself more credit than like cutting yourself short when you're, when you're fighting something that, most doctors unfortunately really don't necessarily fully understand, and we're educating them at the same time.
Great point. Karen, therapist perspective.
I think that when you're dealing with something that makes you feel out of control, sometimes every day, it's so important to look for the parts where you're winning and to find ways, seek out wins, and maybe even to journal them and to acknowledge them. Because sometimes just having that one win can make everything else in perspective. So find the success.
I really like that. That's a good reminder. And everybody, we are just so thrilled to have yet another night with all of you. This is always the highlight of my month. And I know all of our panelists here are always so grateful to be here with all of you. We're here every second Tuesday of every month. I'm about to put a link in the chat here to register for our next one. If you miss Brenda, she'll be at the Lymphedema Roundtable next Wednesday. So the link to register is also in the Linktree link I just put in the chat. And if you're interested in learning more about LymphoPress, have questions about your LymphoPress, give us a shout at marketing@lymphopress.com. We'd be happy to connect you with somebody to answer your questions. Brenda, I know you're in the shadows, but if you have any lesson or something you'd like to share from the shadows there, come back to us.
How lovely. Wow, here I am. Wow, that was fun for me to listen and to watch tonight. What another great episode. And I think I gleaned something from everyone, but boy, that giving yourself permission to every now and then have a pity party. Yeah, we are human beings, aren't we? And don't despise your humanity, embrace it. I always say you're flawed, but you're awesome. Embrace your flawsomeness. So that's what I would leave you with tonight. And I thank you for the chance to chime in, Alexa.
Of course, Brendan. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions, but come back next month and we'll try and get to them then. Lots of love to all of you. Have a really great rest of your night. Stay elevated, stay happy, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.